UFC Iowa just wrapped up, and it was a pretty subpar card, pretty boring card for the most part. Obviously, some highlights. There's going to be highlights to almost every card, but it just wasn't very fun to watch, especially the prelims. I'm going to go over the fights. Obviously, big main and co-main event, big narrative shift. Not as much in the main event, actually. First of all, for the co-main, Bo Nickal did not get fraud checked. RDR is just an extremely good fighter. A fraud check would have been if Bo Nickal lost to someone like Paul Craig, who we know doesn't fare well against the elite in the UFC, and currently he's washed. RDR has top 5 potential, no doubt. RDR's grappling is elite. I knew he had power on the feet, but his fight IQ is better than I expected. His cardio looked okay through 1.5 rounds, although you can't really get the best read. It was better than Bo's, I'll say that. This was not a fraud check for Bo Nickal. Rather, RDR is just an amazing fighter. Let's just look at the facts. RDR is a former double champ in one, which one obviously not UFC level, but it's still a very elite organization, probably the second or third best outside the UFC. He has, what was that, his 23rd, 22nd pro fight when he was fighting Bo. That was Bo's 8th fight. You want to know who Khabib was fighting on not his 8th, but his 14th fight? This is who Khabib was fighting at his 14th fight, not his 8th fight, not his 9th, not his 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. This is his 14th fight, and he's fighting this guy 0-3. So before anyone jumps to any conclusions, before anyone says, Bo is a fraud, he's not. He's fighting super high-level competition this early on in his UFC career. You can even go to Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev wasn't fighting guys like RDR in his 8th fight. I mean, Bo Nickal is fighting top 5 competition in his 8th fight. Like I said, RDR is an extremely solid fighter. RDR has a very deep submission tool bag, and Bo just doesn't have the fight IQ. In the first round, Bo takes RDR down. Pretty good takedown, extremely good takedown. As high level as any champion. But once he gets there, he kind of lost. He lands a good ground and pound shot, and RDR goes for first a triangle, then an armbar, and Bo gets a front headlock. And instead of maintaining top control, he pulls a guillotine on RDR, which is just to show that terrible fight IQ and inexperience. But guillotines almost never work at the top level anymore. Tell me the last high-level guillotine we've seen in the UFC with a top 10, top 5 opponent championship fighter. It doesn't happen anymore. Fighters just know how to counter it. It's a cheap submission, and it only works on lower-level competition. Bo was able to get up that round, and then RDR did a trip, but the reason that didn't count as a takedown is because they didn't reset the scramble. It was all still in the same scramble. When Bo got up there, still in the clinch. Bo didn't fully get an escape, so when RDR tripped him, Bo shot right back up anyways, but when RDR did trip him, it didn't count as a takedown because it's all one continuous scramble. They didn't separate, and so a lot of people were complaining about that, but that's just how it works. That's a reversal. That's not a takedown. Again, that's just how wrestling works. It was one continuous scramble. RDR did not get a takedown on Bo Nickal. Second round, Bo's, I kind of forget what even happened other than finishing sequence, but all I remember is RDR just did really well pressuring Bo, putting him on the fence and making him uncomfortable. Bo's body is not conditioned for these top guys yet. Bo's only been fighting MMA so long, his body's not going to be conditioned to taking the strikes. He hasn't built up all those micro fractures to check leg kicks. Look at his gut, bro. He looks weak in the gut. I mean, that's just, and RDR looks like he's made out of steel. RDR is much bigger than him. RDR is much more powerful, and the body shot, it was genius. RDR had a genius game plan, and he looked amazing. Again, I don't think it was a fraud check. You can't say it was a fraud check when you're losing to a double champ in your 8th pro fight. That doesn't make you a fraud. Bo Nickal can easily bounce back from this if he takes away the right lessons. First of all, whoever is in Bo Nickal's ear telling him he's a good striker and he's got to keep it on the feet, he's the next McGregor, needs to get fired immediately. It is an awful game plan. RDR said in his post-fight speech, which was genius, he's going to do what he does best. He's not going to change his game plan around what other people do. RDR said that he's going to do what he does best, and this is what multiple UFC fighters do. All the top guys, they do what they do best. They don't care what the other guy has. They're going to use their strengths. That's what Bo Nickal needs to do. He can't be striking. I don't care that, he developed his striking a little bit. He has an extremely shallow tool bag on the feet, and we saw here he can out-wrestle someone like RDR, who has probably some of the best wrestling in this whole division. If Bo just had a Khamzat Chimaev game plan, he could do a lot better. You don't need to see his striking. Yeah, it might be good, but you don't need to use your striking unless necessary. But when the opportunity presents itself, you should always be looking for that takedown. That is what you're good at. You stick to what you're good at in your strengths. I just don't get it. His coaches kind of had a terrible game plan. But yeah, even in this fight, when Bo did get him down, arguably could have won that first round. He had a submission attempt, and he took RDR down and landed a ground and pound shot. And other than that, not much happened. There wasn't anything significant on the feet. They may have given it to RDR. I don't know. It could have gone either way, but all I'm saying is Bo just needs to stick to his guns. Like, dude, you're not going to be a Conor McGregor on the feet. Just study Khamzat Chimaev, the guy that you said you'd beat easily. Study him and learn from him. Learn from someone who is ahead of you. You're not going to know everything by your 8th pro fight, so just learn from those before you. Look at Khabib. You think Khabib was ever scared to wrestle against high-level BJJ practitioners, or Islam Makhachev was scared to wrestle against Charles Oliveira? No, they shoot right in because that's what they're good at. They stick to their strengths. Bo Nickal needs to stick to his strengths and stop trying to do all this striking stuff. He's very shallow on the feet and very green. Oh my god, bro, he's... And then... maybe Bo's not cut out for MMA. Even before that finishing knee, Bo kind of quit on the fence. He was just taking shots, trying to get out of the fight, but it's either Bo's not cut out for MMA or he just had a rude awakening in RDR, and it could be a little bit of both, but I do think RDR's elite. I literally said I think it should be a pick'em. After watching the fight, obviously RDR should have been the favorite, but hindsight's 2020, and congrats to anyone who bet on RDR, but it's hard for me to pick against someone like Bo because he is one of my favorite fighters. I am an American and I like American fighters. I know a lot of Americans don't support American fighters, which is weird to me. It's like the only country where people don't support their own fighters, which I don't know. I support American fighters. I like Bo Nickal, Penn State Wrestling, and yeah, it just sucks to see him lose. He just needs to take a step down in competition. You can do him versus Torres Finney. But please, just Bo, you got to stick to your strengths. Stop trying to be someone you're not. If you need me to come out to your next fight camp, I promise I'll help you out. We'll get a win. You know, Mike Brown's busy training 20,000 other fighters, dude. He's not going to put all his time into you. Call me up, Bo, and I can formulate you a good game plan. Don't give up positions and pull guillotines. Keep the top position. Hover on him. Just keep a high pressure on him and don't let him breathe. But yeah, Bo Nickal, he looked decent in the first round, but RDR looked even better, and I actually like RDR. He's a good guy. It sucks it had to be this way and he had to fight one of my favorites in Bo Nickal, but I think RDR is actually a really entertaining fighter. He's funny, he's a pretty good guy, and I'm excited to see what he does next. RDR is getting older. Obviously, he's had a lot of success in other organizations. I think the UFC at this point just has to push him full throttle and give him a top 5 guy for sure. But yeah, RDR looked good. Bo, obviously there's some work to be done, but he's got to get back in there soon. He cannot be fighting every 6 months. He needs to fight more. The 6 months, it's not going to cut it anymore. He needs more activity and he needs to learn. Give him a few cans. Give him like 2 or 3 cans. Let him rebuild his confidence. RDR, great win. And I'm excited to see what he does in the future. The main event, Cory Sandhagen versus Figgy. It almost looked as if Figgy did not want to be there, but this was a pretty easy fight to pick. Cory Sandhagen was an obvious choice. You know, Figgy's 38 years old, coming off one of the worst beatdowns of his career against Petr Yan, and Sandhagen had a somewhat competitive fight with Umar. You know, did decent defending his grappling, and you could just tell he was going to be fired up after that. Great job reversing positions, getting on top. His ground and pound looked good. High fight IQ as always with Cory. Does he deserve a title shot? I'm not sure. It kind of depends what's going on with Petr Yan right now. Is Petr Yan going to fight Umar? It's all dependent on that, but yes, he is a fresh matchup for both Sean and Rob, so it wouldn't be the worst decision to give him a title shot. And he is getting up there in age. He's 33, so he doesn't have the most time. If he got a title shot, I wouldn't be mad. You could definitely make an argument that he deserves it. What's next for Figgy? He's 38, coming off a severe leg injury, it looks like. I think it might be time to hang it up, maybe give him one more can. Let him go out on a win, but yeah, it's just kind of a sad ending for Figgy. In his prime, and even now, he's one of the most well-rounded elite fighters. His grappling's amazing. So much power. He's dropped Cheeto Vera, dropped Petr Yan. He's a whole different animal. And yeah, it just sucks to see him go out like this, but Cory Sandhagen looked amazing. Possible title shot, we'll see. I think he loses to both those guys. You know, overall, Cory Sandhagen's the better fighter than Merab and Sean, but Sean's striking so far ahead of Cory's that I think, and his defensive wrestling is good enough that he should be able to edge that one out. And same goes for Merab, but opposite way. His wrestling and pressure is so far ahead of Cory's, and obviously his striking is worse, but it's good enough where he can not get finished and defend off Cory's strikes. But yeah, Cory Sandhagen looks phenomenal. I'm going to buzz through these last couple fights. I already got the important stuff out of the way, kind of, but Ponzinibbio versus D-Rod. D-Rod looked great, kind of. You know, it's like 1-1 going to the third. D-Rod hurt him in the first. Ponzinibbio came back, won the second. D-Rod caught him clean. Finally gave us a decent performance after this lackluster card. But yeah, D-Rod looked good. Just give him another striker. He's always going to have fun fights. And Ponzinibbio, it's going to be time to hang it up here soon. He's very chinny. He gets knocked out in almost every other fight. So I don't know what you do with him. But D-Rod, yeah, just keep him around. Montel Jackson, Daniel Marcos, stinkfest of the year. Daniel Marcos just wanted to hug. Montel Jackson had insane speed on the feet, firing those 1-2s down the pipe, lightning speed, and Daniel Marcos looked like crap. Merab and Umar would destroy both of them. Cameron Smotherman versus Sergey Spivak, Sergey Spivak. You know, Cameron Smotherman was trying to fight like Topuria, but I think he forgot that he's much taller and a much longer opponent. You know, a lot of times when he was throwing those hooks, it ended up hitting on his forearms. He's just too long for that fighting style. It's not going to work well for him. It doesn't match his frame. It was probably 2-1. People were glazing Sergey Spitty. I'm just going to... His name is hard to say, so just cut me a break. Dude, the commentators, you would have thought it was a 10-8 round every round. Like, they were on his meat, bro. Like, they were on his meat for no reason. But, yeah, he looked good, but not that good. Like, you would have thought he was going to be the next bantamweight GOAT, the way they were talking about him. Is Kobe Thickness still in the UFC? That'd be a good next fight. First 2 rounds were amazing. Last round was a stinkfest, but it was as advertised in those first 2 rounds for sure. You know, they were slugging. Jeremy Stephens still holds his power, but at this point, he's just too old. He doesn't have a deep enough tool bag to take on someone like Jones, who could really take him down whenever he wanted, but he just wanted to entertain us, and I got a lot of respect for him staying up with Stephens for 2 rounds and giving us something decent to watch. But yeah, Jeremy Stephens, he brought it like always. He now has the most losses in UFC history. And Mason Jones, I think this was his first fight back after being cut. And not a bad re-debut. Fun fight. Miesha Tate, Yana Santos. Didn't watch this fight. But apparently Miesha Tate was coming back in the 3rd round. I saw the 3rd round, actually. I'm lying. I didn't see the first 2. I came back. It was like the 3rd round. I saw Miesha Tate was winning. Obviously, she lost the first 2. Miesha Tate, she did something dumb. She like took her back. She was on full mount and she took Santos's back. Just ran out the clock there. Could have had a TKO victory likely, but who knows though? Maybe not. But not high fight IQ from a veteran, which you'd think they would have high fight IQ. She didn't. But yeah, it was a fight. Asmat Bekoyev, he looked pretty good. I think this is like his 3rd, 4th, 5th finish in a row. He's dropping loader all over the place. He is going to be a fun prospect for sure. I'm excited to see what he does in the middleweight division. I think you do him versus the Francis Ngannou clone. What is his name? I don't know. But that would be a crazy fight. And you got fight of the night written all over that. Again, I didn't even mean to like skip this one. I was just, I don't know. But Julian Robertson TKO, congrats on a big win. Ilia Topuria submitted by Li Jingliang. I didn't really know any of these guys going in. Yeah, I guess Kang Lee got some good chokes, and Gaston Bolanos has bad choke defense, so good submission. Thomas Peterson, Dontel Mays, stinkfest of the year. Peterson, training partner of Gable Steveson. Dontel Mays trains with John Jones, I guess. I don't know if he's just John Jones' punching bag or something, but yeah, this fight was not that good. Like, what do you want me to say? It wasn't like a technical masterpiece. He was just literally laying on him. Congrats to Peterson. Last fight, again. Juliana Miller, you know, she had the win of the century. Everyone was counting her out. Everyone was telling her she couldn't do it. But she fought through adversity, and she took Ivana Petrovic to deep water. And she really lived up to her name. Juliana, the Killer Miller, absolutely killed Ivana Petrovic's hype. You know, she's a real big hyped up prospect coming in this fight. Everyone thought she was going to be the next Valentina Shevchenko, but not on Juliana Miller's watch. That was my UFC Fight Night reaction. You know, overall, the card wasn't anything spectacular, just a run-of-the-mill industry plant card. I take full accountability for my pick. You guys have already made sure to clown me on my prediction video, so congrats. But I'm going to dial it back a little with my predictions. I'll let 314 get to my head. I'm not going to be as opinionated, I guess you'll say. I'll be back for sure, but thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.